It's my feel-good breakfast show.
Welcome back to it, your feel-good breakfast show. It is Expresso. We're live here on SABC3. We're talking words, all the words that stood out in the year 2020. Unprecedented, certainly at the top of the list. And we're back on video call with Dr. Phillip Louw from Oxford University Press, Southern Africa, as we really dig deep into it and review the words identified by Oxford languages as the words of the year.
So, you know, the words of the year, as mentioned, unprecedented, but I think we need to get into the nitty-gritty. So, Dr. Louw, welcome back.
Thanks, guys. I'm very hungry now, so that would be my word of the day, is hungry.
Well, we're hungry to learn a bit more about this. And the biggest event of 2020, which had a massive impact not only on vocabulary, but also our lives, was the outbreak of COVID-19, the pandemic. And as it progressed, I believe that we need to get into the nitty-gritty of which kinds of words surrounding the pandemic increased in usage significantly on your side.
Yeah, so, you know, the big one obviously being coronavirus. It was a word that was really consigned to the medical textbooks for much of the time that we've known it, and it has seen 100-fold increase in use. So that's a big one. You know, then we look at the word like COVID-19, which is an entirely new word that was created to describe this specific strain. You know, so for us, if we had to pick a new word of the year, an entirely new word of the year, it would probably be COVID-19. But you know, there were many other words that increased in use, words like pandemic, words like lockdown as well. And yeah, just to talk about the pandemic quickly, I mean, we know the word epidemic usually, you know, it has been big. We've seen a lot of epidemics the last while, but pandemic, this is probably the first one in our lifetime, you know, where something has had such a global impact that we've needed to call it a pandemic. And then, you know, to move on from there to something like lockdown, what really fascinates me about lockdown was that, especially in the US, lockdown had a very negative connotation. You were thinking about people being in prison. Okay, we can say maybe we're still in prison now, you know, through lockdown. But lockdown in this instance is actually a good thing. And that is why I think, you know, in some parts of the world, they were slow, like the US, to use the word lockdown. They preferred shelter in place, rather, because lockdown had these negative connotations. And then a word that's also come in that's very interesting, that refers to a very short-term lockdown, just to flatten the curve, if I can use that phrase, which has become a bit of a buzz phrase as well, is circuit breaker, where you have very stringent measures for a short space of time to just break that cycle of infection. And that's a time we're in now.
Sure.
And then, you know, a couple of other ones, a word that's also really come to the fore for us in South Africa in the last while is this word super spreader. I saw it again on your news coverage this morning, where we've been warned that ATMs might become super spreaders. The president spoke about funerals being super spreader events. And then, of course, we had that towards the end of last year, the Belito parties and those kind of things, the rages that became huge super spreader events. But if I had to pick my favorite word, sorry, if I can just say this, if I had to pick my favorite word, it's the one COVIDiot. And that's those people that are putting all of us in danger because they refuse to wear masks and, you know, don't follow the lockdown rules.
We need to be getting our hands on these dictionaries, because clearly we're missing some of the words. Carl and I have both not heard that one, your favorite one that stood out for you. But of course, Dr. Louw will be chatting with you some more and unpacking all of those words. Thank you so much for spending the time with us this morning. Of course, there are even more fascinating words to explore, which we'll do a bit later on.